Itachi planted his left foot on the ground on Naruto's right-hand side. His right foot was raised high, aiming at Naruto's temple. Naruto had his back turned against the Uchiha and was trying to turn clockwise to face the Uchiha. He turned just fast enough to see Itachi's foot plant into his face. The redhead didn't wince when the kick forced him to slide backwards slightly. For Naruto, the fight was over. For Itachi it was just the beginning, but that all depended on Naruto. Once Naruto took a hit while he was trying to defend, it was all over. The defense was supposed to be so perfect that nothing could pass through it. If Itachi was able to bypass it once, he would do it again and again. As such, Naruto couldn't go with this again. Not before he went back to the drawing board to get something done to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. Naruto looked at his hands with a frown. It was disappointing that Itachi had learned him this quickly. But it was to be expected. Itachi was smart, way smarter than him. One way or the other, unless his defense was perfect, Itachi would eventually outsmart him. It made Naruto think that those blessed with genius genes had an unfair advantage over normal people like him who had to nearly kill themselves in order to gain what they had. It took him years to get better, but Itachi hadn't done so in the time he needed. If Itachi had the number of years he had when training, the Uchiha would obviously be way up his league. There was also that something called the Sharingan. Now that he thought about it, Itachi had yet to reveal it to him. The redhead shook his head. He didn't know anything about the Jujutsu, but he was sure there would be something in the Uzumaki library. Senju Tobirama had done a thorough research on the Uchihas during his time. Defeat, huh? Naruto finally said something. His tone was bitter. He really didn't like being on the losing side. We can hardly call this a battle. You were just on the defense, no attack. Given the amount of time I have seen you fighting, it was only a matter of time before I could learn everything about your movements, Itachi explained lightly. Naruto didn't attack. He figured the one reason that made him hesitant was that he didn't have that much in terms of attack. The redhead had admitted that he usually focused on defending himself rather than attacking. But Naruto was still skilled in kunai throwing. His scores equaled his in the academy. It was also strange that Naruto didn't use that if he really didn't want to attack with his hands and feet. Ninjutsu was out of the question. A defeat is a defeat. There is no nice way to put it. The fact is that I grew confident in the previous draws. I never thought you would end up besting me, Naruto said in a calm tone, the bitterness that had been dancing in his tongue all but a memory now. He seemed to have accepted that he lost and that was it. Itachi shook his head. He wasn't going to try to have an argument when he knew that Naruto wasn't going to change his mind on that matter. Why don't we try attack then? I defend, you attack. Naruto frowned again. Perhaps you think that the only reason I don't attack is because of my lack of attacking skills, but that isn't because of that. There is another reason, Naruto said with his index finger raised. Even when you're attacking, I see no opening to attack. Itachi smiled, inwardly. Naruto was impressive when he fought. Yet, that response has led him to fully confirm that Naruto couldn't really attack head-on because he knew he would lose the moment he did so. He could only defend fully when not attacking. It wasn't that Itachi didn't make mistakes, it was that if Naruto attacked, he would be open to attack, and the redhead didn't want that. He wanted to be in a position he could attack and not be open. But that meant incorporating his defensive skills with his attacks. Of course, if he did that, he would slow down his attacks. Some shinobi might say that the best defense is attack, but when facing a stronger opponent, you had to know how to defend or else you would lose the battle. A stronger opponent will always overpower your attacks, but when you are able to defend, you could bear his attacks and strike when the opportunity represents itself. A light bulb appeared above Itachi's head when a thought came to mind. You said that you could defend until I tire down. Naruto tilted his head to the side. He had a feeling that Itachi had found something, but he merely said, so? Defending doesn't take much energy and chakra from you, but when you continuously attack a stronger defense, you continue to increase your output in power to break through. Naruto smiled. You will naturally tire quicker as you grow frustrated when your attacks are proving futile. A frustrated man can be dangerous, but I know when tired, he will leave an opening and I will take my chance. Itachi shook his head. I guess that applies when you're forced into a battle you can't win or don't know you will win. Naruto nodded. You can't always think that you will be better than everyone. The Sandaime Hokage has taught me something very important. It isn't always the stronger shinobi who wins the battle, but even a weak shinobi can win against stronger opponents. The solution lies in the ability to be able to think strategically. You learned something after all, Itachi said with a smile, giving the impression that it pleased him that the redhead was learning something. Then again, when it came to fighting, Naruto wouldn't refuse the knowledge. Why don't we see how you fight when attacking? Perhaps I could help you. Naruto shook his head, smiling. It is embarrassing to say this, but I may appear to be better when we are at the academy, but that is only because the academy puts limits on you. In terms of attacking, you are superior to me. Naruto paused for a moment before adding. The academy, you know my selfish desire. It didn't take Itachi too long to figure out what Naruto was saying. So you don't engage in a fight with me at the academy because, given academy rules, you'd lose out. Your objective is to become the best. Naturally, that means claiming the top spot in everything. So then, why not at the academy? If I were to lose, you'd become the best and I wouldn't be able to get one over you again. 2 defeats? No can do. I would rather settle for the shared spotlight rather than face another defeat that would make all my efforts seem worthless. With kunai and shuriken throwing, I am supposed to equal you, but not better than you. Itachi shook his head. All the more reasons you should allow me to help you increase your attacking capabilities. And I can't do that if you don't let me see how you attack. Naruto seemed to put it into thought for a couple of minutes before shaking his head. Some other time. I have no doubt I can learn something, but not just at the moment. I did accept your invitation because I knew I would eventually gain something. Itachi nodded in acceptance. As long as you're saying you will allow me to help you. Which jutsu are we learning today? Itachi seemed to think for a moment, before shaking his head. Why don't you show me a jutsu you have created on your own? Naruto didn't need to think about it. He held out his right hand, and flames lit up before swirling up at the palm of his right hand. They had no form, just swirling around violently. I wanted to create a fireball, small version of it, that could be used like this. It isn't complete. I was wondering if you could have some tips. Itachi arched an eyebrow. Not being surprised by Naruto's jutsu, but by the fact that the redhead didn't seem to know that his jutsu was basically a copy of his father's Rasengan. At least when it was completed it would become an elemental Rasengan. You do know that your father invented a jutsu like that, right? Itachi almost looked amused when he saw the look on Naruto's face. Go ask him. In time, with the help of clones, you will be able to do it and then return to teach it to me. Naruto frowned. Is it that necessary? Itachi nodded. Or you could spend more years burning yourself. The Uchiha added. He could see that the jutsu was really dangerous. In the form it was unstable, and the only reason Naruto was able to maintain that violent form was because of his excellent chakra control. Naruto sighed, dispersing his jutsu with a wince, something Itachi was quick to note but made no comment on it. I guess I have no choice, he said, settling down on the ground. How are you with Kenjutsu? Good. Itachi said. You wish to learn it? Naruto nodded. I want to create my own style that will complement my fighting style. I recently received my special-made sword, so I guess it is time I start learning to use it. To familiarize myself, I have to learn how a normal sword is held and how it is used. Some things you can't really do on your own without help. I won't be a good teacher, but I can have someone to help you. Itachi said. Shursui, you can come out now. Shursui flashed behind Itachi, smiling. How long have you known I have been here? Long enough, Itachi said, giving the same response that Shursui gave him the other day. Fair enough, Shursui turned to Naruto and spoke. I'm Uchiha Shursui, real shinobi and Itachi's friend, a pleasure to finally meet you. Itachi has spoken a lot about you. Naruto smiled beautifully. The pleasure is all mine, he said politely. It was reasonable to suspect that Naruto may not have known who Shursui was at that time. Whether it was true or not, Itachi didn't ask about it. He figured if the redhead didn't know, by tomorrow, he would know. Later that day, Azumi arched a curious brow when she entered into the library and found Naruto with stacks of scrolls in front of him. It wasn't that he was reading that surprised her. It was hardly a surprise. Naruto was always reading at night in the past weeks. In fact, every day when he returns from his daily training, he spent hours at the library reading. She had to do her job of bringing him food here, even though it wasn't allowed. She still did it because she didn't want him to starve himself. What had surprised Azumi was Naruto's position and the look on his face. The redhead had his face leaning against his right palm with his elbow placed on the desk, and a faraway look on his face. He seemed to be thinking hard about something. Is something wrong, Naruto-sama? Naruto didn't respond. Naruto-sama. Naruto's eyes turned to Azumi. Oh, it is you, he said. Seemingly not disturbed her shout. Is it that time already? Azumi noted that Naruto's tone was a bit down. She grew curious in wondering what it could be that was eating him inside or at least making him think a bit too deep. She was arguably a rare occurrence. Something wrong? Azumi asked, sitting down in front of Naruto, the container containing Naruto's food still in her hands. I saw something going on around the village as I was coming back home. What is going on? Kyuubi Attack Festival. Azumi said. The villagers are ready to celebrate the day the Yondaime Hokage saved their village and honor those who died in the service. Naruto seemed to think for a moment. So that hard time to be an Uchiha or Uzumaki, huh? The redhead said in thought. I didn't think you'd concerned yourself with that. Azumi said with a raised brow, showing surprise that those words actually came out of Naruto's mouth, not just that only, but also the manner in which it was said. I am going to be head of this clan some years to come. Of course this has to concern me. Naruto said quietly. Well, thinking about it too deep won't solve anything. He added. Was it what you were thinking about? Naruto shook his head. I was reading about the Sharingan. He said with a frown. I take it you didn't like what you read. Obviously, Naruto said. This was rather disturbing. I can't believe those eyes can do the impossible. I saw them today. They were frightening, and with what I read here, I am truly glad the Uchiha are our friends. I wouldn't want to fight someone like Itachi with those eyes activated. Jealous? Possibly, Naruto said without shame. I met Shursui today, and to think that I thought Itachi was the only one special amongst the Uchiha. The redhead shook his head. I wonder how one can be on top with those blood-red eyes looking over everything like a hawk. You sound defeated. Naruto shook his head slightly. Motivated, his word and expression truly contradicted each other. With the Sharingan, Itachi could slip through my current abilities without too much trouble, and that bothers me. I want to create an absolute defense that will help me defend against those bloody eyes. It represented a mountain to climb. Naruto didn't like challenges, but this was one that he would have no choice but to try and complete. There was no other way for him to go about things without facing those Uchihas, not in real fight, but they would be a great competition. He had tried not to look at things in that way, but there was no other choice now, especially with how things were. He had to look at things in the light he didn't wish to see them. The Uchihas would be a challenge to his growth, not that exactly, but his rise to greatness. Itachi was only going to grow stronger than he was. For a moment, Naruto had allowed himself to bask in the illusion Itachi would not grow further than he had. Azumi merely smiled encouragingly. "You can do it if you try." Naruto nodded. "I will do it," he said. He had no other choice but to try. He didn't want Itachi or Shisui getting one over him during training. It was apparent that the other Uchiha would be joining them for their training sessions from the days that follow this one. 2 Uchihas against just 1 Uzumaki, so not fair. I'm a pathetic censor, you know, and that might prove lethal to me during battle. Shisui was watching me and Itachi for some time and I didn't know, but Itachi did. I wish to use your Fuinjutsu skills to create a special seal. When do we start? Azumi said excitedly. She was more than ready to help Naruto with anything he wanted, especially when it has something to do with Fuinjutsu. By the way Naruto spoke, he seemed to have an idea of what he wanted anyway. So, creating the seal would be easy, or so she thought. After we eat, Naruto said. I have already eaten. Doesn't matter, you will eat again. We always eat together when it is just the 2 of us. Besides, I wouldn't eat comfortably if you're just watching me. Naruto said calmly. The following morning. Minato had never looked so happy. The Yondaime Hokage looked as if he was about to burst at any moment like a balloon. If he could dance, Naruto was sure his father would be dancing right about now. Hell, the man went as far as to dramatically wipe out a joyful tear from his right eye. This was because Naruto had said one simple thing. Father, I need your help with something. Naruto hadn't realized that it would mean so much to his father if he asked him for help with his training. Yes, he had known that the man was disappointed that he wasn't asking him for help in his training, but he didn't think asking would cause this kind of reaction from his father. Minato was ecstatic. He was really close to say, sulk on that Fugaku. The man was trying to get his son into the Uchiha compound so that he could train him, taking away his job from him. No matter how little it was, Minato was going to take joy in helping his son in whatever it was that he wanted to be helped with. All that mattered was that his son had asked for his help, and screw going to work early, he could spend some time with his son, teaching him a few things. What do you want me to help you with, son? Minato asked, with all the joy contained, yet clearly visible in his eyes. The man was hovering all over Naruto, ready to get his answer inside his head if it didn't come closer. Naruto shook his head. He'd forgotten this side of his father. It reminded him of old memories. It reminded him of the idiot and stupid father had once come to know. This turned his lips into a smile, and then a short laughter. Minato was touched. This was truly a blessed day. When was the last time he heard Naruto laugh? When was the last time? It might have been brief, but it was laughter nonetheless. Oh, how he wished Kushina was present to see their son laugh. He was sure that she would have shed a tear if she saw that. Sorry, Naruto said, all calm now, the amusement all gone. I just remembered something. I haven't seen you like this in a long time. It was one of those times I wondered if you were as smart as the villagers made you out to be. Minato laughed, scratching the back of his head. He took no offense. He had at times acted like an idiot, sometimes even clueless. Those had been the good days. Ah, how he missed it. Minato felt so happy that he considered being absent from work for the day after teaching Naruto what he wanted to be taught. Good times. Minato managed to say. Naruto nodded. I want your help with the jutsu. Itachi said you were the only one who could help. The redhead said. Are you able to help me, father? Minato nodded vigorously. Of course. Uchiha compound. The relationship with the Uchihas had a very good beginning. The business-like relationship began with Uchiha Fugaku, and this is how it went like. Whether it was just some luck or a blessing, it mattered not to Uchiha Fugaku. He accepted the gift given to his clan with open arms and a smile. The gift was in the form of Uzumaki Naruto, the heir of the Uzumaki clan and eldest child of the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Ever since the Kyuubi went on a rampage and destroyed parts of Konoha, ending many lives, the Uchiha have always been put on the blame. Kushina had kept quiet about the Uchiha who had extracted the beast from her, so has Minato. The revelation would have caused them to be hated by everyone in the village, as it was one of them who had done so. It was even a great pain since they didn't really know the person was, but Minato had told them the man claimed to be Uchiha Madara. Neither Minato nor Fugaku really believed it, but the man had claimed so when they had nothing to go with. Nevertheless, the village continued to look at them with the eye of suspicion. It was unfortunate and really brought pain to his clan. The only good was that he kept a close relationship with the Yondaime Hokage. The man was fair and honest. He fought to correct and restore the power that had been stolen from them, and it had been restored. Now was just the time to secure the future. Their present standing in the village's system was positive, but their image in the eyes of the villagers was unacceptable. It would change though. It would change soon. He already had Shisui and Itachi working wonders for the clan. Things would change soon. And they were going to change for the best. Fugaku counted the stars as he looked at the boy. The two prodigies of the clan were not enough. Sooner or later, the villagers would awaken to their slumber and realize that the Uzumaki was the son, their beloved Hokage. They had adored the redhead before, and they would do it again. Fugaku just had to play his cards right, and the villagers would perhaps give him credit for raising the Yondaime's son. If the Hokage was able to trust the Uchiha with his son, then they must be good people, right? The Kyuubi incident had brought out a lot of changes. It was amazing that the village had turned upside down because of just one night. It was just amazing how things change overnight. Minato had granted the redhead permission to enter the academy without even realizing it. Fugaku had laughed when Itachi told him how Naruto had tricked his father into signing the academy registration papers. Naruto may not notice it because he was hardly present in the streets in the village, but he was causing some people to talk about him. They were comparing him to his son. This was a good time as any for the redhead to come to him. He would certainly give it his all to train the boy along with his son. For now, Fugaku could say, finally. He had been waiting for the redhead to come to him. I have been watching you, Naruto, Fugaku said to the redhead Uzumaki. I thought that no one would be able to be equal to Itachi when he started at the academy. He has been acclaimed as a once-in-a-generation genius, but you have defied all odds and made a miraculous turnover. I'm honored you think so highly of me, Naruto said smiling. But Itachi is still the best fighter. If it wasn't because I am cheating time, I wouldn't be sniffing his level right now. Fugaku looked amused. Naruto was probably talking about his use of shadow clones as cheating. Well, he was right about that. The use of those clones made him learn quickly. If Itachi wasn't the genius he was, the redhead would have knocked him over some time ago. Still, the boy was obviously being modest. He was impressive for his age. I didn't know you were the modest type, Fugaku said, his eyes staring at the redhead, who just continued smiling while shaking his head slightly. I'm not. Fugaku narrowed his eyes at the redhead as he led him to his house. It was difficult to tell whether the boy was being polite or being honest. Yet, the Uchiha had merely smiled. The boy was just someone he needed. A blessing indeed. You have excelled in your academics, and I'm told since your loss to Itachi on the first time to spar with him you've never lost again to him again in a fight, Fugaku said. Itachi said you only lost because you had no one to teach you anything. That may be so, but Itachi was just the better fighter, Naruto said. The first loss had been utterly embarrassing. He had been ashamed and gutted. Itachi had beaten him without making the effort. Naruto had loathed that loss, he hated that day, but it was also the day that he changed. It was the day that he swore never to lose in that manner again and never to lose to Itachi again, in a real fight. He hadn't gone to the academy to be a flop and be ignored by everyone. It was true that Itachi attracted the most attention. But he was just an Uzumaki. The Uchiha was more prestigious than the Uzumaki, yet his clan was the most feared clan. The Uzumaki held the Kyuubi after all, and they were the seal masters that have been causing Iwa and Kyumo to knock at their doors during night. "Don't sell yourself short," Fugaku said. "There is no one who can match Itachi in your generation aside from you." The Uchiha head paused for a moment. "Itachi tells me you're looking for a teacher and have already mastered the fireball no jutsu he taught you." Naruto tilted his head to the side. That wasn't what he said. He didn't remember telling Itachi that he wanted someone to teach. In fact, his training buddy had been the one to tell him that his father wanted to see him. Naruto may be an ignorant fool, but when something fishy was going on, he did notice it, but of course he wasn't going to correct the man. It would just make the situation a bit troublesome. It was best to just leave it as it was. Besides, if he said he didn't need help, he would be lying. He needed someone experienced to teach him some things that he didn't know. He had come to realize that he couldn't do anything on his own. He needed someone to give him a hand so that he could go further in his development. "I have done as best as I could on my own, but I think it is time I get professional help from someone of your caliber," the redhead said. "I tried asking the Sandaime Hokage, but he was hesitant, and only offers me his knowledge and his wisdom." That wasn't completely true. He'd never asked the old man about helping him fight. The Sandaime was the one to usually call him. Naruto would never go to the old man on his own without being called. But that didn't mean he actually hated being in the old man's presence. There was a lot he learned from the old man. On this matter, he figured the professor wouldn't have agreed to it even if he asked, not that he had the intention of doing so. "That isn't bad," Fugaku said. "He may be old, but his mind is still sharp." Once again, Fugaku paused. They reached his house, still holding his words. He sat down and looked at the redhead carefully. "I'm willing to teach you ninjutsu, and some life lessons along with Itachi." Naruto only asked one question: why? It was to be expected. If he was learning from the Sandaime, then Fugaku would have been disappointed if the boy had jumped into the opportunity to be trained by him. The boy was ignorant but not stupid. Itachi had told him that. You show promise and Itachi needs someone to remind him that he hasn't reached his peak yet. He has also asked me to teach you, and not teaching you anything will just be letting your talent go to waste, Fugaku explained easily enough. Naruto wasn't satisfied. "Why? I'm not from the Uchiha." It wasn't a secret that the Uchiha didn't take others from other clans. Hell, they didn't even allow anyone to enter into the military police. Azumi had told him that other clans had been trying to pressure the Uchiha into accepting some members of their clan into the police force, but they have refused all times. Fugaku looked at Naruto carefully. He figured it was best to just come out clean about it. Besides, he couldn't even read the redhead to tell what he was thinking. It was best not to make him feel like he was being lied to. Perhaps if he was honest the boy would show him something. "Do you understand the situation between our clans?" Naruto nodded. "Being holders of the Kyuubi, my clan is hated for holding the very beast that destroyed the village and killed many. It goes bad as some even believe that we worship the Bijou. On the other side, your clan is suspected of being the ones to let the Kyuubi out. Both our clans are in difficult positions, yet we hold important positions in this village. No, we are its defenses. The Uchiha deal with internal security and the Uzumaki head the sealing corps. You also control the barrier that surrounds the village and keep track of movements around the village. Isn't it that you know more about what goes in and out the village than the Umbu? Your library contains even secrets that not even I know." Naruto shook his head. "I'm not privy to all information. What I told you is what I know." I do know about the sealing core, but the rest is just news to me. The redhead said. If Naruto wasn't infamous for his ignorance, Fugaku wouldn't have believed what he had just said. There was nothing in his face that told him he was telling the truth or lying. The Uchiha clan head shook his head. Now you know, he said. Yet, both our clans are not in favorable positions in the eyes of the villagers, Fugaku said. I want to create a bond between you and the Uchiha. Your father is the Hokage and you're likely to be the one to succeed him. You are also going to be clan head when you reach that age. Fugaku didn't need to explain any further, Naruto would figure it out. Naruto appeared to think for a moment before smiling. When do we begin training? Fugaku's reasons didn't matter much to him. He was more than happy to get this done. The man would teach him what he wanted to be taught and he would grow stronger than he was. At the end of the day, they will all get what they want. Itachi should return soon. We will wait for him and then begin, Fugaku said. You should go home and tell your mother you'll return late. I don't want to worry her. Naruto shrugged. It is okay. I usually go back home late anyway, the redhead said. Besides, as you said, since some members of my clan know what happens in the village, they'll tell her where I am if she notices I'm not home. Fugaku nodded and a thought came to mind. This compound is surrounded. There are 4 large structures that oversee everything that happens in here. I don't like it. Naruto tilted his head to the side. He made a look that clearly said he was going through some thoughts inside his head. It took a minute or so, but Fugaku was patient. Do you want the same barrier we put around the Uzumaki compound? If you can get a good word for me, yes, Fugaku said. It caused commotion when your clan erected that barrier to keep other people and even Umbu from your compound, but that matters little. I like that nobody really knows what happens in your compound. That kind of secrecy will only lead to more suspicion. The people will start to think you're hiding something. Naruto said with his head tilted to the other side. Fugaku smiled. They don't have to know it is there and we don't have to explain to anyone why we're protecting our clan in that manner. The barrier is only visible to both the Sharingan and the Byakugan, no? It is, Naruto said. I will speak to Mother. I doubt that old hag will allow for it though. But if it does happen, I doubt they will even tell how it is made. I understand, Fugaku said. The Uzumaki were not really sharers in the secrets behind their seals. Hell, even Minato was forbidden from telling his Umbu certain things about the barrier that surrounded the village. Then again, every clan had its secrets, and none shared with the other. Have you started your lessons in Fuinjutsu? It was small talk. He already knew the answer. But given Naruto's ignorance, it was reasonable to think that the redhead wouldn't dare to think that he was making small talk. Naruto nodded. I didn't start by writing my name when I learned how to write, I started by writing sealing formulas. Fugaku looked amused. Was Naruto making a joke? He shook his head, the redhead was dead serious. Really now? Naruto didn't respond to that. It was fortunate that Fugaku had not caught on that he had been ignored because Itachi walked in with an older woman, who he assumed to be the Uchiha's mother. Hello Naruto, it has been long hasn't it? Naruto looked at the woman with a smile. He honestly didn't remember when he last saw her. But she looked familiar. If she was Itachi's mother, then her name must be Makoto, his mother's friend. If it was her, then it had been long time. He probably last saw her during the prince days. Yes, it has been. Itachi shook his head at Naruto's reaction. I'm surprised you chose to come here on this day of all days. Tomorrow is your younger sister's birthday, isn't it? Naruto blinked, before shaking his head. Celebrations will be made tomorrow. Now he understood why his mother had been insisting that he not go out tomorrow. He'd been merely thinking that the day was the Kyuubi anniversary, not this sister's birthday. This was seriously becoming ridiculous. He needed to open his eyes more than he was. And he thought he was learning. Well, he couldn't be faulted. There were just a lot of things to know. Now that he thought of it, he didn't even celebrate his this year. Fugaku stood up and looked at Makoto. "We will return late tonight." "Don't wait up," the man said to his wife. As Makoto nodded, Naruto faced her once and smiled a different kind of smile. Following day. Uzumaki compound. "Should you be having that kind of a look?" Azumi asked, looking straight at Naruto. This was his sister's first birthday. He had to spot a happy look rather than the scowl he was currently wearing. For someone who smiled at every situation, the look was rather surprising. Then again, he had been smiling less over the past days. It was really strange for Azumi, who was accustomed to seeing Naruto smiling. The redhead was always had a smile. Perhaps it had something to do with his encounter with Yoshino. Okay, that was a bad joke. Getting more seriously, it could be the things he has been filling his head with. He was spending a lot of time reading the things that he had been ignoring, and now he understood more about the world that surrounded him. Azumi was glad for that. He couldn't remain blind forever. Naruto turned to look at Azumi. He wiped off the scowl on his face as he stared into the teen before him. "My body hurts," the redhead said calmly. "And I'm feeling bitter about it." Azumi arched an eyebrow at Naruto's response. "Why?" she asked. A thought came to mind when she remembered that he came back home later than usual last night. She cocked her head, a habit she was picking up from Naruto. "Does it have something to do with the fact that you came home in the middle of the night?" Naruto nodded. "Your mother was worried, thinking that you might not come back because, according to her, she had been all over you about the importance of staying at home today. She thought that you may have ran away from home," Azumi said, looking slightly amused. Kushina had been a bit hysterical about it. She had even asked the Yandame Hokage to go look for Naruto because she was afraid that she may have messed with being too demanding. Azumi had nearly rolled over the floor because the woman had been holding Minato by the collar of his t-shirt, with the blonde looking nervous as he tried to calm his wife. Naruto didn't ask what amused Azumi. "Mother wouldn't forgive me if I decided not to attend Karen's birthday. I had no plans to miss it either way. Even though he may or may not have realized it was today." "I'm glad," Azumi said with a smile. "Then? I went to a training ground with Fugaku and he asked me to attack him so that he could see how good I was in taijutsu." Naruto frowned at the memory. "I said no. I wasn't about to attack a grown-up when the result was obvious." "Then?" Azumi said patiently. "He attacked me. That bloody man beat me up and told me that there would be time I would have no choice but to fight a stronger and smarter opponent. Sometimes one had to lose or win. Life was like that." "Can you believe it?" "Are you seriously asking me that, Naruto-sama?" Azumi asked in a flat tone. The redhead's ignorance was becoming too much. He had to know that things didn't always work out how he wanted them to. She understood that he was still a kid, but this was the shinobi world, nothing was fair and children grew up quickly. Shaking her head, Azumi spoke once more when Naruto just stared at her with a frown on his face. "He was right. Sometimes you have to fight to death. You won't always choose if you want to fight or not. Life is unfair like that. Sometimes you will be forced to fight an opponent who is stronger than you to protect what you love." "I hate that kind of world," Naruto said with a snap. He shook his head. "Life is supposed to be a beautiful thing. That is what we are promised when growing up. Nobody says anything about a cruel world that takes away your freedom of choice. It was not fair to live like that. But that seemed to be the only reality that waited for him." Naruto frowned when he thought the adult world was that cruel. With being a child, everything came simply and there were no worries. One could afford to be carefree and let the adults handle everything. But it didn't appear as simple as it looks. "Welcome to the real world," Azumi said with a smile. "That is just wrong," Naruto said flatly to Azumi, who was imitating his smile. "Don't do it again." "I couldn't help myself," Azumi said with a laugh. She wanted to see how he looked when he was at the receiving end of his own medicine. He didn't seem bothered by it though. He only looked bothered by the fact that she was stealing his thunder. "I still have a lot to learn," Naruto said. "That bloody man showed me that much last night. Well, at least I was exposed to a real shinobi. That will help along the way." Still, he was never ever going to allow that man to beat him like that, ever again. He understood that the man was a full-fledged shinobi, but Naruto hated being defeated. He would beat that man one day. He would grow stronger than Fugaku and beat him. It wouldn't have to first rain blood for that to happen. "You really don't like that he beat you up, don't you?" "He did it in front of Itachi," Naruto said with his eyes closed. "When Itachi fought against his father, he did far better than me. Perhaps it was because I never actually tried to fight and that Itachi has been sparring with his father for some time now, but that doesn't take away the facts." For Naruto, the fact was that Itachi did better than other. He did have justifiable reasons, but he didn't accept them. To him, those were just excuses. Azumi shook her head. "Come on," she said, turning away from Naruto. "Your mother has already finished baking the cake and your father is already returned from work." They'd decided to do their own celebrations on the day before joining the rest of the villagers later on during evening. It was a great day. So many things had been planned by the villagers and many had already started with the drinking and security had been increased around the village. The military police force was the one a lot busy though. When people were drunk, things went out of control very easy. Naruto put on a smile and nodded at Azumi before following her. The living room was brightly lit and both parents looked really happy. Naruto looked on for a moment before his mother noticed him. "You are found him," Kushina said to Azumi. "He was brooding outside," Azumi said, walking over to the elder Uzumaki. Naruto shot Azumi a nasty look. "No need for that look, Naruto. You don't want your sister copying your bad manners, do you?" Kushina chided with a smile. "Of course not," Naruto said, walking over to his father, who was holding Karen. The man gave him the younger blonde and Naruto looked at her with a warm smile. "Happy first birthday, dear sister," the redhead said warmly. "Why don't you just sing for her, while your mother takes the cake?" Minato said to Naruto. "Azumi sang for your third and fourth birthdays. Don't you think it would be best you sing for your younger sister's birthday?" Naruto glared at his father. The man smiled innocently. He was saying it because he knew he couldn't sing. Naruto had some time ago tried to sing for his mother's birthday and it had been hilarious. Kushina had laughed at him that day. Naruto had never been so embarrassed in his life, well that was before Itachi came along. "No way am I missing that," Kushina said with a wide smile. "We will take the cake after Naruto sings," Kushina added, still smiling. "I'm not singing," Naruto said defiantly. He looked down at Karen. "I can only say this to you, I hope you grow up to enjoy your childhood as I did before the unfortunate happened. May you grow up to know our parents' love more so than I have come to experience it." "That's so sweet, you know," Kushina said happily. Azumi came in with the cake and handed it to Kushina. She woman ordered everyone to take a seat on the sofa while Minato got the camera ready. The Hokage set the camera on a timer before sitting on Naruto's right hand, with Kushina on his left. "Come and join us as well," Kushina said to Azumi. "I don't want to intrude." "Nonsense," Kushina said strongly. "You are a part of this family and you will always be, now come on before I have to drag you." Azumi didn't hesitate. She happily walked over and stood by Kushina's side. Okay, everyone, let us all smile, Minato said, grinning. And say, Happy birthday Karen-chan. Happy birthday, Karen-chan. The camera flashed twice. As the camera flashed, Naruto's smile widened beautifully. It wasn't the happy smile that he usually wore when talking to people, it was a grin that he put on when he was feeling content with being in the presence of his family. If anything, it felt as if the years had been rolled back and he was in reliving those glorious days he once enjoyed as the Prince of the Hidden Leaf, the good old days. How he wished his sister could also enjoy that kind of life as well. She would grow in joy and in the presence of people who loved her. That made him happy. Perhaps some time ago, he wouldn't have wished for it because she was taking his spotlight, but he didn't care about it now. He had his time and it was time for her to enjoy hers as well. It was time for the princess of the Uzumaki clan to claim her crown. As her older brother, he had to be there for her. There was no other good reason other than she was his beloved younger sister. Now he understood why Itachi spoke with joy when speaking about his younger brother. They called it sibling love. He hadn't come to understand it back then because he had stayed away from her presence, but now that she was regularly in his arms, he was feeling the love, he was growing attached to her, and Naruto didn't resent it, he loved it. This was his innocent little sister after all. Minato-kun, Kushina started with a smile, her neck twisted to face the Yondaime Hokage, who also turned to face his wife. She'd spoken in a tone that said she had something slightly serious, and so the man gave her all his attention. You have something in your face, and it will mess up our cute pictures, Kushina said. Lean closer so that I can remove it for you. Minato did so, albeit cautiously, as he had a feeling that something fishy was cooking up in her head. He just hoped she was not about to kiss him in front of Naruto and Azumi, that would be embarrassing. He didn't want Naruto to see them doing it. He was too young to be seeing something like that. Minato blinked when Kushina slammed a handful of the cake she held in her arms on his face. Oops. Naruto looked at the look on his father. It was amusing. He looked like something from the TV. It was also amusing because he hadn't been apparently expecting that to happen. When his mother went on to laugh, Azumi joined her as well. Naruto didn't want something like that to happen to him. He would rather stand behind the camera and take photos on his parents. With that in mind, Naruto stood up, trying to get away from the crossfire as he was sure that his father would want revenge against his mother. As he was walking away from the two, Kushina called him. Naruto made the mistake of turning around to face her because as he did, the cake's cream painted his face. Naruto didn't blink, he just stared at his mother for a few seconds before tilting his head to the side, and then smiled with his eyes closed. He didn't get to say what he wanted to say because both his parents burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. Naruto frowned as Azumi walked over to him, laughing as well. You shouldn't try to make that look on your face with that mask covering you, she said, kneeling down to take Karen from him. Naruto smiled and handed Karen to Azumi before wiping off the cream off his face. He then brushed it across Azumi's face. Looks good on you, Azumi. Later that day. Hokage Monument. Naruto was sitting atop of the Hokage Monument, on the Nidame Hokage's head, overlooking the two brightly lit streets of the village hidden in leaves. It was really something to see. The lights made a beautiful sight to see, plus the small fireworks. The noise at the streets were on a new high, with shops not closing at the regular time and drunkards strolling through the streets singing merry songs, while the past Hokages and their families joined some villagers on civil celebrations. But of course, that didn't mean that in some alleys predators weren't lurking in the darkness looking for prey. This was something that Naruto had come to learn recently. He had come to learn that there were people who did horrible and despicable things to other humans. It was ridiculous and just disturbing. Naruto couldn't really understand why someone would wish to harm someone in brutal fashion. They were of the same village. The redhead shook his head. He blamed Itachi for infecting him with his virus. He hadn't been the one to think of such thoughts. Who cared about the moral responsibility and what was wrong and right? He was just a kid, he shouldn't be thinking too deep about all those things. Adult could deal with it. But because of Itachi, he was thinking about it. Curse that Uchiha. Well, it was hard to miss things anyway. On his way up here, he had seen a drunken man trying to force himself on a woman. That was an unfamiliar territory. Naruto didn't fully understand what was going on the scene. But whatever it wasn't right because the woman had been crying for help while the man hit her, all the time trying to take her clothes off. Her cries hadn't been playful. There was the feeling of dread and pain in her tone. Naruto could remember the feeling because he had heard it before and he knew when someone made that sound, something was very wrong. The military police had stormed into the scene before Naruto could actually fully grasp what was going on. He remembered one of those Uchihas telling the man he was charged with attempted rape and assault. Rape was a foreign word to Naruto. He would have to look at it in the library tomorrow. This night was a no-do, he had to rest after leaving the monument. I thought you'd be with your family, Itachi said, walking over to Naruto from behind with Shisui by his side. The others are down there, enjoying themselves. Naruto didn't turn his eyes towards Itachi and Shisui. Perhaps it was because he was bothered by the fact that he hadn't sensed them until Itachi spoke. His back was always open because of his lack of sensory abilities. He certainly had to work on that real soon or he would be open for surprise attacks. Those could be nasty if what Fugaku had said was anything to go by. I've had enough fun for one day, Naruto said with a shrug. Besides, it was best he allowed his sister to take the spotlight. Though he was very sure his presence wouldn't have made any difference because everyone would be fussing over Karen. Oh, your mother must have planned something interesting to celebrate your sister's birthday, Shisui said, as if he knew something. Why did you choose to be here of all places? Others are down at the village enjoying themselves and you're the only one in your family who is missing. I can ask you the same question. Naruto said, his eyes turning towards the older Uchiha for a moment. Shisui smiled as if he was proud about something. He looked at Itachi, who was standing on Naruto's right-hand side. He gave the Uchiha heir a thumbs up. He is beginning to ask smart questions. I think you're having some influence on him. Itachi looked at Naruto for a moment before turning his attention towards the brightly lit streets. Yes, he said. We are patrolling as part of the military police force. Itachi said, responding to what Naruto had said. Naruto arched an eyebrow at that response. Really now? I didn't know you joined the military police force already, too eager to get things real? Perhaps, Itachi said quietly. He just joined for tonight because his father said it would be best for him to experience real missions. On a night like this, people are bound to go out of control. Some spies are going to sneak through our walls to gather information because it will be easy to move around. With many intoxicated by alcohol, this will be a good time for Itachi to learn the kinds of people that are there and learn more about what is right and wrong. Naruto thought about it for a moment before responding. A learning experience, he said. You must be ecstatic to be able to participate in something like that. Shouldn't you wish to join us as well? You will be able to understand the moral responsibility we have as people and be able to differentiate between what is wrong or right. Given your ignorance, it is safe to assume you ignored all those kind of lessons when they were teaching them to you and your clan. Itachi said to Naruto. Military police is for the Uchiha, besides, I wish to just observe from here. You should come with us. Fugaku-sama said it was okay if you joined us. It is just for tonight anyway. You will be able to observe things from a closer angle, and intervene where you have to. We will be dealing with civilians, they aren't people you can't handle, Shisui intervened in a serious tone. It will be a good inexperience that will teach you what must be done by good people and the energy we must put to protect innocent people and this village. Naruto felt like he had demons running rampant inside his head. This was all just a pain and an echo that wouldn't go away. Where were the days he truly felt compelled to just ignore everything and still not be bothered by it? Ah, how Naruto missed those days. Your sister is going to grow up in this village and this world that surrounds us. Don't you want to see the kind of world it is? If it corrupted, would not wish to correct it so that your sister can live in a safe place? Naruto turned to face Itachi with a smile, eyes closed. That is not very nice, Itachi. It may not be, but it is the truth and you have to see it, Itachi said firmly. If you ignore it, you will only regret it when something bad happens. Naruto looked back into the streets of the village silently. Looks like it is settled then, Shisui said smiling. Come you too, I know a good place where we can start patrolling. Forest of Death. Naruto was strolling through the Forest of the Death, or so they called it. Naruto really didn't get where the name came from. The place didn't stink of death. Sure, at first he'd been frightened a bit coming here when it was dark. There were sounds that just sent chills down his spine and things that just made his hair stand, but now that he has grown used to it, he no longer felt anything. He could even say that he was at home while being in the forest. It was not scary, but just the quiet place he could get some training done. Perhaps he wasn't the one to say the place didn't stink like death. After all, he didn't know anything about death. He had seen people being swatted away by the Kyuubi. He had seen people with looks of dread, but he had never seen anyone die in front of him. A part of his insane self wanted to see what death really looked like. Was it really the beast that people made it out to be, or was it just something adults used to scare children away? In his young life, he had come to learn that adults really like to use mind tricks in order to get the children to behave. Well, Uzumaki didn't fall for such tricks. Then again, he'd heard very few because he never actually listened to most adults when they speak. It was mostly nonsense that had no use to him. The festival was over with. Perhaps Naruto could say that he'd enjoyed a bit of his life since that fateful day. But things were over. He had to return to work and do his dues. Training was part of his life he couldn't throw away, no matter. There were eyes that were staring at him and a shadow he had to overshadow. Naruto's movements were brought to a complete halt when he sensed something in the change in the air currency. Naruto widened his eyes when a man appeared out of the trees, jumping at him. The look on the man's eyes was just frightening. He seemed crazed, perhaps he had no sanity to speak of. But that was not what made it possible for the man to wrap his large hands in Naruto's hands. The man had simply been too fast for Naruto to react, given the surprise attack and the fact that the redhead had little chance in reacting quicker than a seasoned shinobi. Naruto struggled to breathe as the man lifted him up into the air, both his hands, trying to pry off the hands that were sucking the air out of his lungs. His legs kicked and kicked as he tried to free himself from the strong hold. He may be an ignorant child, but he knew a prank when he saw one. This man was serious about trying to kill him. He knew his father was hated by his enemies and that some wouldn't waste the chance if it was presented to kill the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto had known this. But he hadn't expected it to happen. Konoha is becoming lax in its security, the man said with a grin on his face. I never thought that the intel could be right. The unknown assailant had received a tip from someone in the village about this little boy. It was said that the redhead usually ventured around this parts of the forest on his own without anyone watching him. The price hadn't been hefty even so. The Yondaime Hokage is known for his kindness. I question that though, his actions during the Third Shinobi World War were not actions of a kind man. Nevertheless, I think I will use you for ransom. The rumbled before shaking his head. It's unlikely that the village would fall to its knees over just an academy boy, even if that boy is the Hokage's son. The leader always puts the village first. The man paused, and held Naruto with just one hand while his right took out a kunai. Naruto hissed as the kunai cut through his right cheek, drawing out blood. The man licked the blood, and smiled maliciously. Tastes good, he said before letting go of the redhead. As Naruto was about to hit the ground, the man suddenly twisted and slammed a brutal kick into the chest of the redhead. When the kick connected with his chest, Naruto felt the air in his lungs escape as he gasped for air before coughing up blood as the kick sent him crashing into a tree. Naruto cried as his back crashed into the tree in brutal fashion. We lost our loved ones during the war. I think it is only fair if the Yondaime loses his son as well, the man said menacingly. Naruto was on his butt, his hands clutching his chest in pain. Something may have been broken when the man kicked him. He was sure of it. He didn't mind his aching back or the blood leaking out of his mouth, his chest hurt more. More worrying was the beat of his heart. He was afraid. The man looked serious. This was pain he was feeling, and the man was going to kill him. There was no other way he could look at this. The man wanted to kill him all because he was the Yondaime Hokage's son. Was this it? Had he not swore that he wouldn't find himself in this kind of situation unless he was going to die? He wasn't about to die, not yet, he still had many years to live. He had yet to become the greatest. He had yet to achieve something. This was reality, and Naruto didn't like it. He rejected it. He'd sworn that he would never lose again. This was defeat. It was unacceptable. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't it. He'd vowed to himself. He'd sworn that he would never be pathetic again. He'd sworn that he would never face defeat. He'd sworn that he would never face humiliation again. What was this? What was this? Another defeat? Was he a loser? He was a winner. He was the kid who would rise up from the shadows of the Yondaime Hokage and any shinobi who was a great. He couldn't go out like this. Never. Never. Not in this lifetime, not when there was still breath in his body. Uzumaki Naruto was a fighter. There were so many thoughts going inside Naruto's head that he went down to his knees, whispering things while the rampant thoughts made his head ache, so much that he had to clutch it while trembling violently. What was happening inside his head was a voice telling him that he was pathetic and weak, and for that reason, he was going to die. Naruto was denying that, saying, "No, no, 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 no. Oi, brat, what's wrong with you?" His attacker questioned, walking over to the redhead. "Are you that afraid of dying?" Well, any kid would be in this situation. The moment the man reached him, and grabbed the redhead by his head, trying to get him to face him, a maximum of 6 chakra chains burst forth, catching the man by surprise. The chains pierced through the man's abdomen, lifting him up into the air, while ripping him apart. His screams echoed through the forest in a resounding voice. Perhaps what made it worse were the flames that were lit in all the chains inside his body. They were burning him, to be more literal, they were melting his insides. Naruto looked up to the man who was above him. As he did so, the crimson liquid known as blood gushed all over to his head, rolling down on his face until it was painted in the red mask like his hair. Naruto's eyes were wide as he looked at the now silent man. Something slapped his face. It was not blood, and it came from the man's gut. His body went cold as his eyes and the chains dispersed. As they did, the man fell into Naruto. The redhead didn't make a sound. He remained still under the heavy body. His body was frozen, his mind numb. Did he? Farambu dropped around the two a few seconds later. Shit. We late. One of them cursed, looking at the scene. Is he okay? Another asked fearfully, looking at the wide-eyed redhead. There was a tense moment because they knew if something had happened to Naruto, it would be war. Slowly, one of the Anbu kneeled down and peeled off the man on top of Naruto. He suppressed the edge to swallow hard when he saw the state of the dead man as he focused on Naruto. There was a sigh of relief when he found the redhead to be okay. He is okay, the masked Anbu said, physically, at least. We better take him to the hospital and someone go inform Hokage-sama.